I was born in Iowa City, Iowa in 1952. That'd be May 12th, 1952. My father had a lot of contacts because he was from Oklahoma, so we spent a lot of time in Oklahoma also. And I'm an enrolled Pawnee. My father was Pawnee, full-blood Pawnee, and my mom was full-blood Meskwaki. And from that beginning, my dad did jewelry for many, many years. My mother and their parents were involved also in all manner of Native American art and culture. I admired my parents very much and what they did. I was compelled by my own desire to be pleasing to them and also seeing beautiful artistic things they produced that I thought, I want to emulate, I want to do that, I want to follow their footsteps. And I had a lot of fun watching and learning, and I wanted to start just from the word go, naturally. Being a small child, you're not allowed to. You have to learn. You have to become capable of not hurting yourself, in particular with needles and with saws and cold chisels, that sort of thing. And when I first started out, my father initially just had me doing finishing and filing. I enjoyed that because I got to handle and work with the pieces that he was working with, that he would create into the just beautiful, beautiful things. And in the process, you become slowly blended into the mix. And in this slow blending, it's like creating a cake or a bread. You're developing it and working it. So I'm a work in progress, just like we all are. And my father used to tell me way back then, he said, you can't stagnate. He said, if you stagnate, you cease to exist, the art ceases to exist, then you become just something that's set on a shelf somewhere. I've been making jewelry now for 51 years, and I enjoy it. I'm always learning, and that's the key. Never stop learning. Look and seek out new things. My dad used to always say this is one career, one element of work where essentially you can build your own tools, you can get your own materials, you can find everything. You don't need anybody else. I remember days when we'd actually seek out and look for yard sales, garage sales, estate sales, silver flatware that we could rework, melt. My father taught us so many wonderful things of how to melt metal, how to planish it out. We didn't have a rolling mill, and most people didn't. But planishing was an ancient form of making flat metal out of big lumps of metal, and how to anneal and temper, and the technical aspects of making jewelry. We call ourselves not silversmiths, we call ourselves metalsmiths, and have for so long. And my father said the same thing. He said, we don't work in just one thing. We work in every element. And the elements that were introduced to Native American craftsmen many, many years ago are some of the elements we still work with. This style of metalwork and this style of material that is used is called German silver. It's nickel, zinc, and copper. My mother's father, my grandpa, was a silversmith. And that's another neat way that from that side of the family, it influenced my father because her father being a silversmith and my dad being a silversmith and him picking it up, and that brought the woodland, what they call woodland and Great Lakes region and eastern United States region styles of Native American jewelry all to one focal point. The interest of doing this type of work for me started out when I'd see my father working on jewelry pieces, and he had a work room, and he had a huge workbench there with all his tools. And when I'd see him working, a lot of times it'd be at night. You'd see the ashtray, and there'd be a layer of smoke in his workroom. And usually it was cold, like in the wintertime. And I would sit on the step behind him. A lot of times he didn't know I was there, and I'd watch him work. Just that image of him, and there was a mystic aura about it. And I always saw the work thereafter and look at it and thought, wow, stone cutting and all of the interesting things he'd do. And that drew me. I wanted to know what was over there. I wanted to do what he was doing. I wanted to create things that he was doing. And the first step is developing in your mind what you want to create. First the project, then the materials. In the case of a bracelet, you have to select the gauges, and material comes in all manner of widths. Once you have that, then you have your drawing materials, essentially like drafting tools, regular sketching tools, and they can be very simple or they can be very involved. You have tools that I personally have made. I have tools here that my father made. I have some tools that are actually made by my grandfather. Now, taking the metal, deciding what you want to do with it, and I like to use number 2 pencils. I draw the design on there, and if it's going to be an elaborate design, I'll go ahead and scribe it in. And all the scribe is a hardened steel tool that you can draw on the metal. Some people would say that's a form of engraving, and I guess it is in a sense, but it's very rudimentary. After you've used the pencil creating your design, after you've used your scribe to denote the highlights of it, then you go ahead and you can use a jeweler's file or jeweler saw to cut the design out, or you can use a metal shears if it's essentially a straight device. You can also use what is referred to as cold chisels. And cold chisels are a series of hardened steel devices that you actually cut and pierce. This was the earliest style of cutting the metal to get different shapes. Historically, you can actually look at things and determine what era that these items were produced by the methods that were used to create the pieces. After the metal's cut, then you file it. That's to take any burrs, any sharp edges. There are innumerable filed surfaces. There are jewelers' files. Some people refer to them as Swiss pattern. Then you shape it. Here is my little face. I like to say this is me. What it is this came from actually a tornado at Union City. And the tornado went right through the middle of Union City, and they dropped a bunch of trees and destroyed a whole bunch. Well, in the aftermath, we were in Oklahoma City, and we got to see the tornado go by. But we're always thinking, like, what can we use? And they were cutting up elm trees. And I asked them, what are you going to do with it? And they said, we're going to burn them. We'll throw them away, recycle them. So it's like, I have one. I said, sure. So I took a log. And I made a dapping block out of it. A dapping block essentially is where you take the metal that you've cut, and these very earrings were shaped in this very disc right here. And you create your own pegs, and this is just a hickory hardwood peg. I put the leather around the base because you can use these and they'll splinter and split till you have nothing. You shape all manner of things. In this particular piece, you can shape all kinds of interesting things. Now, once you've got the shaping done, if you need to do any attachments, like for instance, okay, you need the French hook. There are ways to make chains. That's a whole art in itself. The shaping is essentially the same on these. The rudiments are simple. And then the polishing. Polishing is an art in itself. And there are different ways to polish. You can polish stone, you can polish metal, you can polish wood, bone, all manner of things have different ways and different techniques involved in polishing. And this is very simple though. All these things are simple. Every element of this style of work. Once you've polished it, you're done. So you look at it, you select the project, select the material, mark it out, cut it out, file it, shape it, add any additives you need, polish it up, you're ready to go. Now, this is just what I refer to as a cuff bracelet, but this type is the type that's known in Oklahoma. And this particular piece has a black widow spider on it. And the spider is sacred to many people, and it's sacred to my wife's people. And I made this as a gift to her. All the pieces you see here belong to my wife. And this is a pair of waterbird earrings. So waterbird is referred to as a spirit bird, a prayer bird. And this particular image is a spiritual creature. And essentially it takes and protects the prayers that are said to keep them true. That what we're praying for will be clear. And it's not a holy being in itself. You don't pray to this bird. When you're in prayer, this bird is helping you. When you become an artist, you try to involve yourself in every element. This last piece is a piece made by my father, and it's an abalone set, and it's made in the woodland style, and it's very distinctly different than the Southern Plains style. Creating things helps you to think outwardly and what you can do to affect things, and that also is a springboard for thinking of all things, whether it be spiritual, philosophically, mechanically, every way of thinking, and it gives you that interest. That's how it's done.